I have a question for you. Have you ever had a reaction that felt a little too big for the moment? Maybe someone gave you a small piece of feedback and suddenly you felt like you were 12 again. Or someone pulled away emotionally and your brain instantly whispered, "Here we go, they're leaving." And logically, you know you're not a child anymore. But emotionally, something inside of you still is. And today we're talking about her. Because somewhere between childhood dinner tables, quiet disappointments, and moments we didn't quite understand yet, many of us developed emotional triggers that still show up in adulthood. The kind that make a simple conversation feel like rejection. The kind that make someone else's mood feel like your responsibility. The kind that make you feel small in rooms where you technically belong. So in today's episode of The Better Page, we're exploring the quiet connection between our emotional triggers and the childhood experiences that planted them. By the end of this video, you'll understand why certain things trigger you more than others, how childhood emotional dynamics shape adult reactions, and how to start responding to those triggers with more awareness instead of shame. And of course, we'll end with a few journaling prompts to help you unpack your own emotional patterns. So if you've ever wondered, why does this still affect me this much? Stay with me, because sometimes the reactions that confuse us the most are actually the ones that make the most sense once we understand where they began. Here's something no one really explains when we're growing up. Children are emotional detectives. We spend years quietly studying the adults around us, learning what gets approval, what causes tension, and what leads to distance, and what keeps the peace. And the tricky part, we rarely learn these lessons through direct conversations. We learn them through vibes, through a sigh that meant we disappointed someone, through a silence that lasted a little too long, through the subtle feeling that love was available but conditional. And those emotional conclusions, they don't always disappear when childhood ends. Sometimes they just grow up with us. Sometimes the wound isn't loud, sometimes it's quiet. You may have grown up with a parent who was physically present but emotionally distant. They showed up for responsibilities, they did the practical things, but emotionally, it felt like knocking on a door that rarely opened. Children in that environment often develop a habit of chasing connection. They overanalyze tone, they read between lines that might not even exist. They try to earn attention by being helpful, agreeable, impressive, not because they're needy, but because their nervous system learned early that connection wasn't guaranteed. Now here's a dynamic people rarely talk about, but many women quietly recognize it. Sometimes a parent can feel jealous of their child, not in a cartoon villain kind of way, but in a subtle, uncomfortable way. Maybe your excitement was met with quiet competition. Maybe your achievements were minimized. Maybe your personality felt too much for someone who didn't feel comfortable in their own skin. And a child in that situation often learns something very specific. Don't outshine the room. Be likable instead of authentic. Play small. Don't make people uncomfortable with your confidence, which becomes incredibly confusing when you grow into a woman who actually wants to live boldly. Another dynamic many women carry quietly is the feeling that a parent resented them. Maybe responsibility arrived earlier than childhood should allow. Maybe you felt like your existence made life harder for someone. Or maybe you became the emotional caretaker in a house where no one was really caring for you. Children in that role often become experts at managing other people's emotions. They scan rooms quickly, they diffuse tension, they over-explain themselves. Because somewhere along the way they learned a quiet rule. If someone is upset, it might somehow be my fault. And when you carry that belief into adulthood, even small moments of conflict can feel incredibly heavy. Here's the important part. Understanding the roots of your triggers isn't about blaming your parents. It's about recognizing your emotional blueprint. Because once you see the pattern, something powerful happens. You gain space. Space between the trigger and your reaction. Space between the old story and the present moment. You can pause and think, oh, this feeling didn't start today. This reaction is older than this situation, and that awareness, that's where change begins. Before we move into the prompts, grab your journal and your pen, or carry these questions with you as you move through your day. Let them help you trace your emotional triggers back to their beginnings with curiosity instead of judgment. The goal isn't to reopen wounds, it's to understand them well enough that they stop quietly running the show. Think about a recent moment where you felt emotionally triggered. What exactly happened? What emotion came up most strongly? Now ask yourself, when is the first time I remember feeling this same emotion growing up? Growing up, how did the adults in your life respond to your emotions? Were you comforted, ignored, criticized, or expected to manage them on your own? How might those early experiences influence how you react to emotions today? Healing emotional triggers isn't about becoming someone who never reacts. It's about becoming someone who understands their reactions, someone who can pause mid feeling and say, I know where this comes from, and maybe choosing a softer response. If this conversation resonated with you, save this video for your next journaling session. And in the comments, tell me this. What's one emotional trigger you've started to understand differently as an adult? Sometimes naming it out loud is the very first step toward healing it. And if you're here, reflecting, questioning, and writing your way toward clarity, you're already doing something really beautiful.